Welcome back to the Green Means Go channel. It's your host, me. Before we begin, this is going to be a longer video than my Departed review, much longer. There may be times where I ramble because I have a lot to say about Catch Me If You Can, movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, Tom Hanks, Christopher Walken, Martin Sheen, directed by Steven Spielberg. Are you kidding me? I mean, it has all the makings of a great film, except I did not enjoy it in the slightest. Before we do actually get into the nitty-gritty, I must say this. In my Departed review, I called Martin Scorsese Martin Scorsese. Okay, I was not familiar with him, and I realized that that is probably blasphemy, as he is likely on the Mount Rushmore of movie directors, and I didn't even know how to pronounce his name. So I apologize, I feel stupid, and I feel like I've lost some credibility that I didn't have to begin with, and if that doesn't lose it for me, my movie review of Catch Me If You Can should be the final nail in the coffin. Before we talk about it, I want you to get out in the comments, and I want you to rate Catch Me If You Can, 1 to 10, and put a little example of why you believe it. Give me some reasons why you've given it that ranking so we can compare. I'll start, and I won't give you a number right away. I'm going to give you some background. When I watch a movie, I have to analyze it. I cannot simply sit back and let a movie consume me, okay? I can't just sit here and let the movie wash over me as entertainment and walk away saying I was entertained. I approach everything in my life as somewhat of a challenge or a puzzle where I have to analyze it and potentially overanalyze it. And that maybe is why I don't like to watch movies, because they're never relaxing for me. It's always a game. And my wife will tell you, I mean, anybody close to me will tell you that is just how I operate in every facet of life. And I don't know where it began. I've never gone to therapy, and maybe I need to. The bottom line is I have to approach a movie review and a movie watching as a holistic challenge of analyzation. It's never, or analysis, okay? It's never just, wow, can you just watch a movie and be entertained and move on with your life? No. All right, so let's start with Catch Me If You Can. The first problem, and we're going to go through the plot first, then we're going to talk about characters, maybe some themes, give my final review. So we'll start with the plot. This is going to be the chunk of the video. This is going to be the majority of the video. We may talk for 15 minutes. So if you don't want to hear me ramble, okay, put it in 2 times speed and lock in. Especially if you're someone who's upset that I don't care for it. At least hear me out as to why. We start the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio or Frank Abagnale Jr. in a French prison. So already I'm mad, because you have given me the ending of the film. No matter what happens for the next 2 hours, I know that he is caught and imprisoned before we even see what kind of shenanigans he's getting into. I'm going to express to you all right now that I think that's stupid, okay? And that's my opinion. And you may say, well, you don't know how it happens, or you maybe it builds curiosity and you want to see how he gets there. I already know that he's there. So what he does to get there is not of interest to me. The suspense now for the next hour before you find out he's in prison is irrelevant, because I already know the finish line. Okay, so that's the first thing that I did not care for. And I know that some movies do that. And I realize that some movies may do it justice throughout, and I did not feel like this movie did that. So that's my first qualm with this movie. Second qualm, you find out that his dad, Frank Abagnale, played by Christopher Walken, who, you know, I have nothing bad to say about. I think he did a great job in the film, is in trouble with the IRS. And, you know, there's just some little plot points that are kind of irrelevant at the beginning. You find that out. You think that him and his wife, or Frank Abagnale Jr.'s parents, have a great relationship. That's kind of how it's played up. He was in the war. He met her in the war. You know, you kind of see their relationship. It's something that Leonardo DiCaprio looks at with some sort of admiration. You know, you can tell he wants to have that someday. And then you find out that she has an affair, okay, and she cheats on him, which we'll talk about in a second. Before that, all right, you see that Leonardo DiCaprio, and I think this is a big point for the plot, when he's doing that whole substitute teacher fake thing and he gets in trouble with the school, his dad kind of walks out with him and kind of giggles like, ha ha ha, well, you know, you got him, buddy. You know, no discipline, no backlash, almost, and again, an admiration from his father that his son broke the rules, which we see play out in, a bar scene much later in the video when he's deep in his crimes. Again, there's going to be a lot of spoilers. I hope you know that. I mean, that should be pretty obvious when you're doing movie reviews. So if you don't want spoilers, stop watching now. When they're in the bar and Leonardo DiCaprio looks at his father and he says, "Ask me to stop," right? Ask me to stop doing all these crimes. And his father's like, "No," right? So you see it play out again, where it's like he just wants kind of a father figure in his life. And I think he knows that Christopher Walken, his dad, is not that. Okay, so he catches his mom in an affair. His parents get a divorce, and he's at home with the lawyer, or the guardian ad litem. I don't know the technical term. And the lawyer is like, "Hey, you need to make a decision. Are you going to live with your mom or your dad?" And so this is, I think, a bit of the theme in the movie. The underlying theme about this father relationship is, and maybe I'm grasping at straws. And I'm trying to give this movie some benefit of the doubt. So that's what this is. He's not going to go live with his mom because his mom is the one who caused the divorce by having the affair. So, obviously that was off the table. But I think there's something bizarre about the fact that he didn't want to live with his dad. And I think it kind of plays into this. He realized maybe his dad was not a father figure. And again, I could just be totally misreading this and not understanding it. Or maybe he didn't want to upset his mom because he chose his dad. I don't know. So what does he do? The most irrational thing possible. He just runs. He runs away. Okay? That's it. You want to live with your mom or your dad? No, I'm going to run away. Okay? So first of all, slightly unrealistic, which is, one of the things that just makes me go, come on. Pick your mom or your dad. You got 2 more years before you're a grown adult. You go out in the workforce, whatever. Okay, so he runs away, and he has a checkbook that his father gave him for his 16th birthday, I want to say. And he starts trying to cash checks because a paper route was too hard. Working down at the local grocer must have been too difficult. Delivering milk to people's doorsteps, out of the question. So he starts dabbling in check fraud, and nobody will honor it, as they shouldn't. Okay, every bank he goes to, they turn him down, they turn him down, they turn him down. And what does he do? He just happens to see a pilot getting all the praise and respect from the locals, from the people. And he thinks, that's what I'm missing. I'm missing some sort of credibility. So what does he do? He walks to a telephone booth. He makes a call to Pan Am and says, "Hey, the hotel lost my pilot's outfit, my uniform. Can I get a new one?" He doesn't provide any credentials. He doesn't verify. They don't verify that he's an actual pilot. They get a random call from a telephone booth, and the lady's like, "Yeah, sure, just go down to the warehouse and they'll hook you up." What? Like the movie is built on that. Okay? So as someone who's going to analyze everything, that's stupid. Guys, there is no amount of realism or realistic anything in that. Okay? That's my frustration from the get-go, from the beginning. Instead of going out and getting a job, he runs away from his parents because he can't decide to live with his mom or his dad. Instead of getting a job, he decides to fake being a pilot, and the way he does that happens with the least resistance possible. Okay? And you're going to see this as a theme. Catch me if you can, okay? The 2 C's, catch, can, it's clever. You know what I would change it to? Corny and convenient. 2 C's. That's what this movie is, okay? So he becomes this pilot now. Everybody wants to cash his checks. The guy who he sat and faced at the bank and turned him down shakes his hand and says, "We're happy to do business with you," okay? Absolutely ridiculous. So he lives this pilot lifestyle, with absolutely, again, no credentials, nobody fact checks, nobody backs it up. He meets no resistance, and he continues until he shows up at a hospital, and he sees Brenda. Brenda is a nurse who's getting chewed out by her doctor on the floor at the time. And he walks up, and she's upset, and he takes advantage of her emotional, vulnerability. And he says, "Well, I'm a doctor." What? Out of nowhere, right? No planning, just pulls it. "I'm a doctor." What does he do? He goes home and he fakes a Harvard medical diploma. He fakes credentials. and he gets a job. He gets a job as a doctor. Doesn't prove anything. Doesn't have to go through any tests or labs. He just like in 1 minute of the film, he becomes a pilot. That plays out, and then just like that, he's a doctor. Like, that's ridiculous. I cannot sit back and let a movie wash over me that's so farcical, that's so unbelievably unrealistic, and enjoy it. Okay? Not an hour. Like, it doesn't even walk you through the process. Literally, in 2 minutes of the film, he becomes a guy standing in a hotel lobby with a orange and white short sleeve sweater on. 2 minutes later, he's the head of a doctor at a hospital. What? The plot does not develop. That's my main problem, okay? So he becomes this doctor. Okay, not to mention, first of all, he prostitutes Jennifer Garner out of nowhere. He just sees her and gives her a $1,400 fake check for exchange for $400 to have sex with her. He literally prostitutes this woman. What? Like, there's just so many things in this film that are just so unrealistic and ridiculous. Okay, so he becomes this doctor. He falls in love with this Brenda girl, and there's the scene where they're making out, and he gets called into the doctor's whatever, and he walks in, and the only person of color, that's the other thing, it's so ridiculous. The only person of color in this movie is this black kid who is in a bike accident, and his leg is blood. Like, I know it's 2002. I know that Hollywood has changed and there's more representation, but I just find it, I think it shows its colors, no pun intended, that the only black person in this movie is the injured kid on the bed that he walks up to and is completely appalled and grossed out by. I just think we've come a long way. Okay, we'll just say that. So, he's grossed out. He goes in and he throws up. Okay, he can't even do and he's not caught. Right, nothing is even out of the ordinary. It's all ridiculous. All right, so. The next scene I'll talk about is the one where he is in bed with Brenda. They're about to have sex, we can presume, and she stops and she cries, and he kind of, tries to comfort her. It's like, oh, if you're a virgin, it's okay. And she says, I'm not a virgin. She says, I've actually had an abortion, and my parents disowned me. And you know what this dude's reaction is? Do you know what this guy says? In the most unbelievable way possible, the most unrealistic way that you could ever imagine anybody in that moment addressing the situation. He looks at her and goes, well, what if you were married to a doctor? Would that change their mind? What? You just got found, you were about to have sex with your girlfriend. She says, I've had an abortion. And his next move is, well, let's get engaged. Let's go talk to your parents. Maybe if they find out you're married to a doctor, it'll change everything. Like you cannot sit here and say that is in any way, shape, or form realistic or normal behavior. It's laughable. I sat there and I was like, what are we doing? Like, it's lazy development. It's lazy scripting, in my opinion. It feels like they just hop from pillar to pillar. There's no side pillars. It's the most linear, non-linear movie that I've consumed in some time. All right. What do I mean by that? I mean, it goes in a straight path, okay, from one event to the next, to the next, to the next, but it misses steps in the middle that I think should be there. Okay. So he goes to Brenda's house, and I will admit that I did laugh. Okay. Probably the best part, one of the top 3 parts of the movie, is when they ask him to say grace, to pray for the meal. And he's so confused, and he gives the 2 mice fall into a bucket of cream. One drowns, the other paddles so hard he turns it into butter. That was funny. I mean, that was clever. It was a callback to an earlier part where his dad says it at this award ceremony, and Brenda's mom loves it when you think maybe they're going to be appalled or confused. So good. That was a great part. Okay, funny. I'll give it credit there. And then next thing you know, they're having a conversation. Him and Brenda's dad are having a conversation, and he's a lawyer. Okay, I missed this part somehow. I don't even know how he became a lawyer. I don't know how that conversation got started, but his dad was just like, sure, you can be a lawyer here. You want to marry my daughter too? He doesn't even have to ask. Her dad just says, you're a romantic like me. Sure, you can marry my daughter. They met 45 minutes ago. He said a prayer and he was talking about two rats in a bucket. And the next thing you know, the dad is just like, sure, marry my daughter. It is convenient and it is corny. That's my problem with this movie. Okay. So, it continues, and this is where I stopped. To be completely and utterly frank with you, no pun intended. All right. That's actually kind of funny. Didn't script that. I didn't plan that. That just came out. I stopped watching at 94 minutes in, and I said, I'm done with this movie. I don't care how it ends. I know he's going to get arrested. This is stupid. I don't have any reason to finish this film. If you cannot create a movie that holds my attention in 94 minutes, I'm not going to give you the last 40 minutes. That was my thought. All right. If I tell you I watched 94 minutes of a movie and I'm not interested in it, and you say, give it a chance, I've given it a chance. My thing is, you give a movie 30 minutes. Okay. 30 minutes, that should be enough time to hook me. All right. And I gave it triple 30 minutes and it didn't hook me. Okay. So I finished it this morning. I did my due diligence and I finished it this morning, and I will say it doesn't necessarily get any better. Okay. Obviously Tom Hanks shows up at their engagement party and he's honest with Brenda for the first time. And what do you know? He gets away again because they're just walking around like he just always gets away. He just always gets away. Like, Tom Hanks knows he's there. Go upstairs and check the rooms. It's not hard to do. Okay. Again, that's the movie part of it. Cut it some slack. It's a movie. Okay. And then they use Brenda as a pawn at the Miami airport, and he doesn't fall for it. He sees all the guys on their post looking, so he leaves, and then he decides, let me do the pilot thing one more time, and then he hires all these stewardesses or flight attendants, and he walks through the airport, and all the men who are supposed to be looking for him are looking at these women. Corny and convenient. Corny and convenient. That's the plot development. Let me just get some stewardesses to distract these men. Like, it's just, okay. And I'm probably out of order here, but he talks to his dad, and I think that's a good scene where he's in the restaurant or bar, and he meets up with his dad, and he says, Dad, this is what I've been doing. And he says, I know, son. I was visited by the FBI agent, and they're never going to catch you. Keep running. And he looks at his dad, and again, he's yearning for that fatherly guidance and discipline that he knows should be there. And he says, ask me to stop. Like, ask me to turn myself in. Ask me to give this up, right? I can't keep doing this. And his dad doesn't do that for him. His dad doesn't. His dad says, keep running. They're never going to catch you, okay? Which is kind of a story of what his dad's been doing, right? Trying to run from the IRS. So maybe there's some parallels there. I do feel like that is maybe a redeeming part of the movie. I wouldn't say it's going to change my overall score in terms of the entertainment I got out of this film, but that theme of him looking for guidance from his father that never comes, I do think is something. It is worth a bit of a merit point for this film. So he leaves, and then, he goes to France. Oh, side note, okay, another part of the weird convenience thing. Okay, two things, actually, and this is way out of order, and if you're still watching, good for you, okay? The guy doesn't have money to do anything at the beginning of the film, but somehow he gets his hands on like 30 Pan Am model airplanes that he peels the stickers off. He buys an entire airplane for one sticker when he doesn't have any money. You just see a bathtub full of these planes. How does he get them? Well, he's paying for them. He doesn't have money. He has to... It's just ridiculous, okay? The second thing is he just happens to be at a bank auction where they're giving out check printers with no credentials. Once again, let's auction off some things that print checks and give it to this random 17-year-old boy who's going to scam us with it. And we wonder why. Like that, again, corny and convenient. If he doesn't find himself at a bank auction where they're giving out a machine that prints checks, we don't have the movie. It's unbelievable, okay? So he goes to France, where he's printing massive checks. You see him in this warehouse, and He arrests himself. They have a conversation about Tom Hanks's daughter and all these things, and he turns himself in. He goes to prison, and then I believe it cuts next to their flight home because they've already established that he gets out of prison. He's sick. Tom Hanks saves him, extradites him back to the United States. So they're flying back home, and we get the realization or the admission that his father is dead because he wants to call his father when he gets back, obviously, okay, because that tension is still there. And Tom Hanks tells him, well, your dad is dead. And he loses it. And I think because you get this, there's no closure, right? I've been begging my dad to be this father figure for me. I finally gotten caught. And so maybe he will look at me and say, something fatherly, something disciplinarian, something that tells me he loves me and wants me safe because of all I've been through, and he's dead, right? And so he gets upset. He goes to the plane bathroom and he unscrews the John and he crawls through the poop pipes out of the plane and runs away again. Okay, which again is just utterly bizarre, just unbelievable, just ridiculous, farcical, okay? So he runs away. He gets in prison for 12 or 15 years. And what happens? Okay, he gets visited by Tom Hanks, who shows him a check of a guy they're trying to catch while in prison. They're between the mirror and they're talking on the phone, and he tells Tom Hanks all the details about the check. Oh, what happens? Yep, let's let you out of prison as long as you work for the FBI. Of course, the bad guy gets away with it because he has something to offer to the good guys. So then he becomes an FBI agent. Like, this is madness. This movie is madness. Okay? Becomes this FBI agent. At some point, oh, yeah, in order to get caught, he shows up at his mom's house where he sees his half-sister that he's never met. He's just standing. He's standing outside of a window on Christmas, and this little girl comes up to the window and isn't freaked out that there's some man standing in the window. She plays a harmonica for him, and they have a conversation through the glass, and she's not like, Mom, there's a stranger on our yard. Corny and convenient, okay? You guys have seen the movie. I'll stop giving you the plot things, okay? I do think, again, there maybe is something with Leonardo DiCaprio seeing now Tom Hanks as this father figure because he's always curious about Tom Hanks's, child and daughter and about him as a father. So I do think, he eventually runs away from the FBI and then returns again, So I think there is this underlying theme of Leonardo DiCaprio searching for a father. And a father that he couldn't find in his own, but he somehow found in Carl Hanratty, in Tom Hanks, in the FBI guy. And again, maybe I'm giving it too much credit. Maybe that's not in there at all, but I think that is a redeeming quality. Okay? So we've covered plot, which I think is completely unbelievable. It's ridiculous. It's convenient. It's corny. There's nothing that makes any amount of sense. It all just works out for the sake of the movie. Okay? We've covered the theme. I think there's a theme of like parental leadership, and that's what Leonardo DiCaprio is searching for. Characters and actors, I will say, were great. Okay, I think everybody played their role well. I think all the roles were played well. I think the acting was great. I have no complaints at all about how anything was played. Okay, I just think the plot did them no favors. If the plot was a little better, this could have been a great movie because the acting, the cast was perfect. All right, so there's the credit I will give it. Overall, I believe this movie would get a 3 from me. 3 out of 10. I wouldn't even call it average. It was so ridiculous and unbelievable, and I had to almost laugh at how convenient and corny it was that I cannot say or recommend this movie to anyone. I think the theme is fine. I think the acting is well done. I think the characters and the cast were well done, but that does not overcome the unrealistic nature of the plot. Let me see if I missed anything because I did take some notes. Some other things that were corny and convenient when they're in the hotel for the first time and Tom Hanks is actually about to catch him and he throws him his wallet. He never even checks the wallet until the end. Again, corny and convenient. The Barry Allen comic book piece where Tom Hanks is sitting in the diner and the cashier's like, oh, it's the Flash. Again, Corny and Convenient. He just happens to be told this information, and then he brings him the Flash comic books later in the scene. Okay, there's the whole James Bond shtick, which just feels so out of place. It just, I don't know. Movie's not good. Movie's not great. Movie's not good. Plain and simple, movie's not good. Would not recommend it to a friend. 3 out of 10. Okay, I believe that's it. I believe that's all I have in as far as this movie goes. So I hope you understand why I've given it the rating that I've given it. And I don't know what I'll watch next, but we're 2 down. We got 4 to go. Probably Wolf of Wall Street or Shutter Island. We'll see. Okay, so thank you for coming by. I'm sorry if this is not something you agree with, but it is my opinion, and I'm just trying to be that second mouse that churns the butter. What?